Cats, Cops, and C4. I'm sorry, there seems to be an internal problem with our server. Please excuse me, the secretary says, and Linda frowns. What kind of problem is there? You have a valid serial number, but beyond the fact that the beacon was sold, we don't know anything about it. The information is missing. This isn't too unusual, though. If you'll give me some time, I'll get someone in information technology to poke into it. This shouldn't take too long. She promises before picking up an office communicator and using the speed dial. Hello? Oh, hello, Leta. Hey, I'm running up against something odd here. I need information on... You think this is actually a glitch? Cenk whispers to Linda as the secretary starts rattling off the serial number. It could go either way. I will admit, it seemed an unusually lucky break to find the serial number of this item so easily. Linda whispers back. Think it was stolen? Vera adds. Maybe, but if it was stolen, then it might tell us where Miss Big looks for things. Trace it back to a fence that some petty thief sold it to, and we learn more. Every step on the hunt brings us closer, even if the prey still seems far away. Cenk says, everything can be a clue. Linda agrees. Excuse me? The secretary asks. Yes, Linda asks her. How important is this information? A 7, I think? Cenk says, and everyone turns to him. Sorry, human expression. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being merely curious and 10 being that we have license to kill to get it, we're at a 7. If you have some way of getting this information to us and don't simply hand it over on request, we will be returning with a warrant to force the issue. You could have said enough to get a warrant. The secretary says, I said something even easier, but I needed to explain it. Cenk replies, and Vera starts smothering laughter, and he looks at her with a raised eyebrow, and she only starts laughing harder. Anyways, is there a problem getting the information? It's been deleted out of our internal systems, including the backup archives, which means that this was not recent. The secretary states, is there a way to restore it or find out how it was deleted? Linda asks. I'm going to get you in contact with Leta. She can explain it better than I can and possibly get it back. But I don't know, so I'm not going to say anything about that. The secretary says as she types a few things in. Look, it's weird that we don't have the information, but I can't say anything more than it's weird. I'm not qualified to say more. All right, that's fair if you want to be meta. Cenk begins and gets an elbow in the side from Vera. What was that about? No reason. No, really, what was that about? Just think about it. There's like 1,000 reasons to... It doesn't narrow it down. Really? What's one of the funnier reasons? To make me think I did something wrong and try to get me to apologize for something that wasn't wrong at all in a convoluted scheme to get something you could get by asking, but instead decided to scheme for. Cenk answers and Vera smiles. I like the way you think. Let's go with that. Vera says cheerfully, and Cenk can almost feel the secretary roll her eyes. The computer the woman is working at chimes, and she sighs when she reads the message. All right, you three, head to the portal and attune it to the 3rd floor. Apparently it's a slow day, so you're getting Leta's full attention. Thank you for your cooperation, ma'am, Linda says, and she leads the way to a part of the wall that has the carved outline of a door frame, but no door in it. There are a series of symbols to the side in a language Cenk can only identify as the same one that the beacon's serial code was in, meaning an Alpha 1. Linda pauses, and Cenk doesn't hesitate. Excuse me, I don't know the language. Do we press 3rd from the bottom or 3rd from the top? The secretary looks startled at his call at first before smirking. From the bottom, she calls back, and Linda presses the marking 3rd from the bottom. Thank you, he calls back. Thank you, Linda says quietly. No problem. He answers as the portal activates and a watery film pours over where the wall is and shows another floor with a cyborg Tret woman walking up. They step through and the woman raises her arm in greeting. Your officer score, right? She asks and Linda nods. Good. Now follow me to the main workroom for this kind of nonsense and I'll see about sorting things out. Thank you, Linda says, and they begin to follow. Are you allowed to tell me what's going on or what? An agent of a criminal has been caught using Dark Blossom Mystic Emporium product, and we're hoping to get some information out of that to track down their leader. She's been rather naughty to both undersell the situation and keep it legally vague. Got it. Ongoing investigations are funny things, aren't they? Leta asks, and Linda nods. Indeed they do. You're familiar. Linda mutters before her eyes widen. Does the name Elthira Crash mean anything? My cousin? Leta asks. Mine as well. Linda says, and Leta suddenly smiles. Wait, officer score? Linda score the goody two-shoes officer? Leta asks. Cousin, Linda says, and Leta laughs as she walks up and they hug. Cousin, good to meet you. We'll have a meal together after this is done. Is this your husband and sister wife? It is. I had a hard time with them both at first, but after working with them both, it started to just fit together. They say the best marriages are with those that have what you lack, Leta muses. But now's not the time for that. You three are here because you're after some deadly and dastardly dame, and you need my cybernetically savage strength. Complete attitude change when you realize Linda was your cousin. Chunk mutters to himself. Of course. After all, with strangers you have to be careful. You don't know what might upset someone, but family gives and gets the benefit of the doubt. Anyways, follow me. I'll explain the problems in front of us and how we're getting around it, instead of leaving you to stew in silence as I solve it. Leta says with a grin. That's mean. I approve. Vera says, and there's a laugh even as Leta leads them into a server room with several computers humming on standby. All right, follow me a bit more. This room is where most of my department works out of, but there was a prank a couple days ago and my fellows are still barely able to think about food without upchucking. So it's just me right now. Not a problem though, as the whole company normally works just fine. But when there's a problem, it needs to be jumped on right away. Okay, fair enough. All right, now you need to know is that big tower of computer bits is a massive crystal archive. It's capable of storing so much info that we're not even a tenth of the way through it, despite the company being around for 500 years and using just this archive. And the information is in there, Chink asks. No, someone hacked it and deleted the information, Leta says as she stops at a terminal and starts accessing it with her implant. It projects the data, showing the serial number and product listing of the teleportation beacon and ring, but no detail on who bought it when it was bought, and the only listing on its price is on the tagged on product page. As you can see, the data is deleted. Okay, so how does this help us? A few ways. You see, although the deletion has erased the data, the access data about the deletion itself has been preserved. So we can just figure out where the hack came from and then take it from there? Linda asks. Yes and no. No, because they deleted the data about where the hack came from. But yes, in that they didn't get anything more than the really obvious stuff. Leta replies, quick hacking lesson, kiddies. You can delete your username, work under 100 layers of fake identity, and rotate which broadcast beacon you're using as much as you like. You're still leaving a trail, because everything leaves a trail to those that know how to look. And what does this trail look like? Chunk asks. I'm glad you asked. Now, the tragic truth of the universe is entropy. Everything is breaking down in one way or another, and even with axiom runes fixing things, there's little, if anything, you can do about it. The runes will keep fixing things, but they'll keep decaying in the same way. In a predictable way, in a way as predictable as a genetic code. I understand if the data shows specific faults or compensations for faults, then you can narrow down where it was broadcast from and then home in further. Linda says, and Leta snaps her fingers and points right at her. Exactly. The teeny tiny faults in the data stream are almost impossible to find without dedicated search algorithms and almost never become a real issue with the constant repair. But the really good hackers have those algorithms to find them, and these faults cannot be faked, cannot be hidden, and can be predicted. And that's just the start. Show me. Chink challenges, and Leta pokes at the part of the projection that states deleted and goes into the archive of the delete command. There is missing data and she ignores it, goes into the archive further and stops. Is that the provider? That's right. While our hacker deleted their identifying information, they didn't get the fact that their provider provides information too, a common mistake. They also tried to delete the date they accessed it from, but forgot that the identification of their provider provides a date as well, and a time. So this file was deleted by a user under the provider of Zurang Communications about 15 years ago at about 6-ish at night, Leta explains, showing the code and getting the relevant parts to light up. Aren't they one of the top 10 providers across Centris? Chink asks. Number 4, Leta confirms. So it doesn't really narrow it that much. But wait, there's more. And that is observe, she says, and the code starts scrolling before suddenly pausing. This is one of the first of a dozen markers. This one in particular shows a slight physical degradation on the communication relay, one that's caused by a specific company, one of the 3 that Zurong Communications uses to set up and maintain their networks. The biggest of the 3, but since Zurong has about 8% market share, this drops it 6% of Centris already. Damn, that's really carving into this. Cenk says even as Leda has her computer project the image of Centris and has the area the hacker could have been in highlighted. It's a tiny area compared to the whole world, but still larger than a country, especially with the Spire system in place. I'm just getting started. Now the next dozen faults confirm it's the Bilik Builders Guild that set up the relay it came from. But to narrow down which one, we need to do this, Leta says, and a second bundle of code starts scrolling alongside. This is a copy of the command without any of the traces and telltale signs from the communication networks. We compare them, and this narrows out all the differences. Then we use those differences to run a search through similar commands to tell us what other accesses to our system came from that general area. 4 others, Vera says. That's right, another 4 such commands with about 90% of the same faults and alterations in the system. Barring the date of the provider's access, the image of Centris with the highlighted zone shrinks to a pinprick. Vrenspire. I can do better, Leta says as she pulls up the accesses they've had from Vrenspire and runs through them for similarities. Level 138. Damn, that is impressive. Cenk is awed at how she's literally cut down a planet's worth of searching to a single city in mere minutes. I'm not done yet, Leta says as the image of Centris zooms into the Spiren level. There's another level of effect depending on how far away from the tower it is, and another indicator if the connection is wired or wireless. And? Vera asks, and suddenly a ring in the area starts glowing. There's your distance. The computer that sent the delete command is in that ring and it's wired in, Leta says before snapping her fingers, and the rest of the map fades away, keeping only the buildings along the path of the ring. Now we have the edge of an apartment building, a few small businesses, a storage facility, and a half-dozen private residences. Need more? Can you do more? Chunk asks, and she smiles. No, she says, and Chunk blinks. Not legally, at any rate. I'm afraid we're into the territory where things like official authority and warrants are required, and I'm not stepping over that with a cop right in the room. Oh well, thank you very much. This is an enormous help, Chink says, and Linda raises an eyebrow, implying that if I were to turn around or leave the room, you might actually... My lawyer informs me that I should not answer that question. I'm sure, Linda says in an amused tone. So am I, Leta says with a grin. Right, well, see you at dinner, cousin. You've earned it, Linda says with a chuckle. Woo, free food.